Welcome to the You Empowered podcast with your host, Justine Jetty. If you want to unlock your potential and step into the most authentic, healthiest, and happiest version of you, then you're in the right place. Each week, we'll dive into practical, evidence-based strategies for your habits, mindset, and health so you can create a life and a body you love. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome back to today's episode. Today we're going to be covering everything to do with a fat loss plateau. What it is, what it isn't, and if you're in one, how you can shift out of one. So what a fat loss plateau is when you haven't seen any change in your measurements and your weight loss for at least 4 weeks. This is despite being consistent with your calories and your habits. So what's actually happened is your body has metabolically adapted to the calories that you're on. And this usually happens for most women around the 6 to 12 month mark of their fat loss journey. What a fat loss plateau isn't, though, is it's not a lack of movement in your measurements and weight loss due to inconsistency. So a question that I ask when a woman asks me like, oh, I think I'm in a fat loss plateau, I'm not really sure. The question I always ask back is, have you been consistent with your calories and your habits for the last 4 weeks? If the answer to that is no, then you're not in a fat loss plateau. And that rhymes. Didn't mean for it to rhyme, but it does. But that's something that you can think about is if the answer is no, it's not a fat loss plateau. It's also not metabolic damage. So I just want to debunk the fact that a lot of women can panic due to misinformation that a fat loss plateau means that there's something wrong with their metabolism or their body. It's absolutely not that at all. It's also not permanent. And it's also not a hard stop on your fat loss. So you are actually still in a deficit, but because of metabolic adaptation, your results have significantly slowed. And let's be real here, none of us are willing to wait more than 4 weeks to see a shift on the scale or in our measurements, which is why we tweak things to keep them moving along. So before I get into how you can shift out of a fat loss plateau if you are indeed in one, I'm going to first share with you why they even happen. Why does a fat loss plateau even happen? So the first, as I mentioned before, you've heard me use the term metabolic adaptation, which is essentially that your body just gets better at doing the same tasks with less energy. So the same workout or activity burns fewer calories over time. If you're doing the same workout routine that you did 6 months ago, that's now burning less energy for you right now than it did when you started your journey. The second reason for metabolic adaptation is a lighter body costs less energy to move and maintain. So if you were to imagine carrying a lot of groceries, right? Let's say, you got three bags on each arm and you're carrying them from your car into your house. That trip from your car to your house is gonna cost your body more energy, right? Like you might break out into a sweat if they're super heavy. If you've got some steps to maneuver, like your body's working to get to carry that weight. Whereas if you just got out of your car and walked from your car to your front door, well, that would cost you no energy, barely no energy at all. You'd probably have a spring in your step, right? So think of that the same way in terms of weight. Like your body uses more energy the heavier that you are just to function. The second reason for a fat loss plateau is lower NEAT, so non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is you move less without noticing. So when you've been in a deficit for some time, this is super easy to do, and it's one of the biggest contributors to a fat loss plateau. And it's often unconscious, so you do this without realizing it. This is, you could fidget less than you used to, you might sit more, your walking pace might have slowed. These are all so subtle and little things, but they contribute to moving less. And the third and the last reason is hormonal shifts that impact your habits and your behaviors. So for example, a drop in estrogen increases your hunger hormone ghrelin and reduces your fullness and satiety hormone leptin, which will impact your eating habits. Lowered progesterone impacts your sleep, and therefore you might have an increase in fatigue. And this indirectly will impact your movement, your training output, and your recovery. So the reality check here for you is that metabolic adaptation accounts for just a few hundred calories for most people. And the reasons that I've just shared with you is why it doesn't mean that your metabolism is ruined or damaged, that your body's ruined or broken, or that fat loss has stopped working for you. It just means that we need to tweak some things so that you can start to lose fat again and lose fat at a faster rate. So how do you shift out of a plateau? There are three very simple ways to shift out of a fat loss plateau. Number one is to increase your daily activity level. Number two is to decrease your calories. And number three is to do both. What you choose to do depends on your current activity levels, your calorie range that you're currently in, and your capacity and lifestyle. The change has to be something that's realistic for you and that you can be consistent with. So how do you decide which one you pick? My suggestion for you with that is to pick from where you have the most capacity first. So for example, let's say you're on 1600 calories. Makes sense, you probably don't want to drop them any lower if you can help it. So you might have more capacity to increase your activity levels instead. Let's say that you're currently only getting 8,000 steps a day in one gym class. You could easily increase that to 10,000 steps and a second gym class in the week, as an example. Or let's do the opposite of that. Let's say that you only started in a small 10% calorie deficit. So you've been eating, let's say, 1900 calories. You could easily bring this down to, say, 1700 calories without changing your activity levels. Or, again, depending on where you're at, you might have the capacity in both areas and you might choose to tweak both areas for efficiency. That's totally up to you. The important thing here to take away is to change both of them incrementally, not drastically. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Until the next one, take care.